So, in the meantime, I filed this complaint. We get set for a hearing. Well, actually, we didn't initially. I take that back. Initially, I'm just waiting there. She has, I think, 21 days to respond. And suddenly, randomly, we get a supplemental report filed by Tisha Strawn. Okay, so first of all, I want to tell you, they do not have authority to override the court's order. So when the court's order says you're allowed to do a report based on this, that's all you can do. You can't do a supplemental report without like permission, essentially. Okay. So, let me see if this is
Jill, was Patricia saying something?
I don't know.
No, I just said it was more like 51 days after the fact.
Oh,
She filed it on March 18th. Our hearing was set for March 28th. Is that right? Or April 4th?
I want to say March 28th.
March 28th. Yeah. So like a couple days before, like 8 days before our hearing, 10 days before our hearing,
okay.
whatever. She files this supplement claiming she left this off of the other report. Except the reason why we knew that was bullshit is because I just had Trisha give you the whole story. The new supplement report has a big section on how much Ricky Thompson likes her and how wonderful she is and how he doesn't have a problem with her. Now, the conversation that happened at the church had nothing to do with this court case. Trisha and I weren't invited to it. As far as we knew, Tisha Strawn wasn't in attendance, but in her supplementary report, she chose fit to address Ricky's discord, which naturally led us to be like, okay. And then she also made different recommendations on parenting time in this one than she did in the first one, as well as now recommending that Trisha should not have any parenting time unless she undergoes a mental health evaluation first.
And written in Ricky's style of writing.
Yes. And so I am going to, hold on here, I'll just share that as well really quickly. I really don't like these. I got to figure out how to do the controls on this Zoom. Okay, so this is the supplement. And let me close this here. All right, let's make this a little bit bigger. So she files this claiming, oh, my computer didn't work right and I accidentally left this off, these 6 pages. And so they basically talk about Rebecca and how Rebecca's still a liar, and that basically Trisha's family members weren't credible, and you can see it's all written in like this long.
Wait, what? Where are the paragraph breaks? What is going on with that? That's insane.
This is very writing because we have exhibits, which I'll show you one of later. But yeah, so I don't think Trisha actually wrote this. I think she wrote this and gave it to Trisha, and Trisha put her name on it.
Yeah, the paragraphs aren't even indented. What's going on with that?
She also now claims that Trisha fat shamed Waylon, and that Ricky spoke really highly of. But so this is what the reason why I knew this was bullshit. I'm like, why in the fuck would Tisha Strawn, who claimed this report was left off of her report? So on February 8th, she's claiming she left these 6 pages off, but then addresses a situation that occurred weeks later in a report that she allegedly forgot. And so it's 6 pages of this single space bullshit.
And then it's a report that has 2 different recommendations in it. Which one is it?
2 different recommendations.
New info.
And then she recommended phone call time for Ricky if Patricia got primary parenting time, but nothing for Patricia if Ricky got it. She said decision making should be 50-50. And then she puts in here, had a temporary restraining order not been issued, Ricky would have been the primary parent. And the CFI finds that fitting now. Now, it's important because CFIs aren't allowed to make findings. Trisha does not plan to move until school is released, and she stated she plans to go ahead of time. And so the kids should just be with Ricky until then.
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, because
So
CFIs they give their report to the court, and the court just basically uses that as further evidence, right?
CFIs are a neutral and are supposed to be a neutral, independent investigatory arm of the court. That is their function.
Right. Okay.
So that was what she filed, and then a day later, she filed the response to our complaint, calling me bitch and saying that I lied. You know, the same thing that they always say whenever I confront them with
So
truth.
did you ask them how they knew about future events from a past document?
Well, so
Yes,
um
that's a yes.
yes and no. Yes and no. Because we did end up going to a hearing on this. Now, my personal belief, I do not think Judge Plouffe was going to give me a hearing on this. And I think that because, like I've told you before, I know this judge very well. And based on statements that he made, we had an emergency hearing, I believe, on March 26th. I
Mhm.
know it was right before the hearing because I was not even in Colorado yet. I was still in Kansas. And I think I had to appear remotely. The judge scheduled an emergency hearing. We were supposed to have hearing on Thursday and Friday. He scheduled us like an emergency hearing on Tuesday, which is not normal. That is not something that happens. And so did you go to it, Patricia? I don't even know,
I
know if you,
been on it because you weren't there and I wasn't going to be in the court by myself with him because he
okay, yeah. And so, but basically, we didn't really do a whole lot of talking. What happened in that hearing was Judge Plouffe, rather cryptically, well, initially said, I wasn't going to give you a hearing on your motion. Well, he didn't say it that way. He said, I wasn't initially going to set this for a special hearing, which I interpreted, I'm not going to buy what Carlson said. She's crazy, and I'll just make my determination based on the hearing. But something has happened that requires me to take testimony. So here's how Thursday is going to go. I know you guys have been leading up to this hearing for a while now, and I'm sorry to do this to you. But because I have to have this hearing, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. So you're set for 2 days of hearing. We're going to have the hearing on Miss Strawn at the beginning of the day on Thursday. And depending on how I rule, based upon that, we may or may not have the rest of your hearing. So if I find she didn't violate practice standards, be ready to do the rest of your hearing. If I find she did violate practice standards, the rest of the hearing is going to be continued. So I essentially, as I'm driving to Colorado, I'm prepared for one hearing. Now I have to prepare for two hearings in 48 hours. And I'm like, oh, geez. And so I'll admit this, Patricia, I never told you this. I'm glad it worked out. I was completely unprepared for the second part of the hearing because I spent so much time uploading now I have to adjust and upload the exhibits dealing with Tisha that I didn't get a chance to upload all of the exhibits on the financial stuff. And I would have been a scrambling, hurting unit on freaking Friday if Thursday night.
on board too. And we had to get Jeanette Troncuso on board. And
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention that. So we had Jeanette Troncoso do the work product review. We should actually look at that really quickly. And then maybe we can wrap it up for the night and then we'll talk about the hearing. But so Jeanette Troncoso was the person who did our work product review. She's the lady I told you that did the initial thing. So I sent her all this information. It took me a while to get it to her, but she finally got me.
You're not sharing your screen.
I'm going to here in a second.
Okay.
Okay. So let me go here and get this. Okay, so we'll go ahead and share screen.
I
What's up?
just saw something moderately funny because March 28th, that was like 10 days after I moved.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we all moved this year.
Yes, we did. Okay.
Yeah,
So Trisha, excuse me, Tisha filed her report on February 8th. By March 14th, we had paid somebody to review it. So this is her work product review. She said she reviewed what was provided to her, that it's not the complete file, that they had different files provided to them. And this is what she reviewed. She was informed that Ms. Strawn had reviewed the PRE from the previous case and that she refused to review it because the law says you're not supposed to use that document. That document, I would love to use it as an exhibit of character evidence, but I don't think the judge will let me do it. I didn't go there. So basically she said, I'm gonna go here. She went through and did her stuff, but basically she cited the wrong information, even in her documents, her like just boilerplate documents, she had the wrong standards of the law in there. She violated by having ex parte communication, and the reviewer confirmed that that happened, that she talked to Rich and Ricky without Trisha and I being there. She found violation of that. She advised them to give her access to their court filings so that she could e-file documents underneath me and Rich, which is completely illegal. She used the wrong standard for removal cases, and that she has a policy in place that allows her to obtain clarification from counsel. In this case, I emailed her prior to the filing of the report and advised her that this was a spawner case, not a relocation case. It's unfortunate that Ms. Strawn became very defensive and she rejected the legal guidance as noted in her email, which is exactly what happened. She cited different fees. This was another thing. We definitely believe she billed Trisha incorrectly. She Trisha was supposed to pay, like, what was it, like 40% of it to like Ricky 60 or something like that.
Yeah, it was 64.46 or yeah.
54 to 46, yeah. And so she had to pay a portion of the fees, but Trisha definitely overbilled her. We can't get the money back. She provided different files to each counsel. When I asked her why, she admitted that she was disorganized and didn't have trouble, couldn't explain why. That the reviewer was able to see that I was telling the truth, that there were two separate, entirely different files. She didn't understand the protocols to obtain HIPAA records, and she was trying to get Trisha's counseling records illegally. In her fees policy, she had incorrect information. She did not improperly do her billing and list how she did her stuff. I believe she did that on purpose to hide her actions. She got the PRE report and she cannot use that document. She shared a lot of personal information with counsel via email, some of which appeared to seem crude. She shared she had another job with the Postal Service, which was killing her, got confrontational with me as to why she wasn't getting enough CFI appointments, and then said that she was tired or sick or forgot things a lot throughout the thing, often told the parties she couldn't meet with them because of that. And also that she ultimately did not seem to have a thorough understanding of what she was supposed to do. That when we questioned whether she had investigated the domestic violence allegations, she stated she could not ask him about that because she has a policy of not asking the other party about allegations made by parents, and she considers this sharing information. That was just bullshit. She was just making up stuff. She had some investigative procedures. This was a big deal because Tisha fashions herself to be like, detective of the year, because she used to be a Montezuma County Sheriff's deputy. She conducted 2 home visits at each parent's home. However, she chose to interview the children only at the father's home. She never explained, and she said that was because of ongoing concerns. She wouldn't explain what the concerns were. She interviewed the children together. She never got them separate. That's counterintuitive to how to do an investigation. He didn't run a criminal background check on either one of the parties, which is standard procedure. He did not gather case-specific information critical to her investigation. And it said, although she provided a lot of data, she appeared to pick and choose favorable information for the father while providing a lot of negative information for the mother. The reviewer notes the fact that there was a lot of information to sort through. However, certain information seemed critical for the court to have. The following is important, relevant information this reviewer found was omitted from the report. There are many interviews which yielded positive information about the mother that Ms. Strawn did not include in her report. For example, Hannah's teacher told the CFI, mother's extremely involved in communicatives, dad has not been in the picture. CFI negatively noted in her report, the mother did not allow father's older children to attend supervised visits in response to that. Ms. Strawn even said she had talked to someone at the center who had told her mother did not give permission. The reviewer found the Opinion Project policy, which states that visitors only are allowed prior approval from the court. And Ms. Strawn didn't disclose that to the judge when she tried to make it look like Trisha was interfering in Ricky's visits. CFI interviewed father's therapist without an ROI, but she never asked questions about her diagnosis for him, such as if he'd done anger management, depression, or anxiety. She chose to include subjective statements the therapist made about the mother. This was really interesting. I never saw the therapist notes. I don't think that Tisha ever saw them either. I think she put in there what Ricky told her. Because when I demanded the notes, she tried to hide behind HIPAA and say I couldn't get them. CFI even included the therapist felt mother was manipulative. Conversely, she did not interview mother's therapist because she didn't try to reach out to her in 2 days before the CFI report was filed, which was 2 days after I had confronted her about being biased. That's when she started trying to get Trisha's mental health records and then claimed Trisha wouldn't turn it over. Since father persisted and claimed he was the primary parent, the CFI decided to look at financial statements. And then she said, after review of financial statements, CFI finds Rick's claims to be credible. First and foremost, it's outside of her scope to review the party's finances, which is what I told her. Even more confusing is how she arrived at such conclusion without taking into consideration other factors, such as mother engaging in parental responsibilities after work and on weekends. Father provided the CFI information about a school in Texas, and CFI noted in her report the school showed a higher educational value compared to schools in Cortez as well as Tennessee, but the CFI never asked mother about the schools in Tennessee. Trisha tried to provide her that information, and Tisha refused it. On page 27 of CFI, Ms. Strawn cites an article by Christine Carter addressing the fact of extensive research between mothers who feel depressed and negative outcomes for their children. First and foremost, upon review of mother's intake and interview notes, she never disclosed she's been diagnosed with depression. Secondly, Ms. Strawn never asked mother questions about her mental stability, especially in the context of father's allegations. She was paranoid. Most significantly, the CFI's choice to include this article implies bias towards the mother in this case. For the CFI to arrive at a diagnosis of depression is outside of her scope. This interview was very surprised Ms. Strawn utilized the concept of parental alienation syndrome when this is a concept highly censored in all domestic violence trainings, like the 80 hours they just took, and it no longer exists. She then referred to an article by the name of someone named Blotke. The reviewer was intrigued by the source, and upon online inquiry, Mr. Blotke was found in Facebook, where he expressed his beliefs about parental alienation by mothers who accused fathers of domestic violence, including an article titled The Weaponizing of False Allegations of Abuse. The inclusion of this article by the CFI in her report is very concerning to the reviewers, as it provides evidence that she had a confirmatory bias. She also stated the paramount reason Trish wants to move is to create distance between the kids and Rick for their mental well-being. It is confusing how the CFI arrived at such conclusions, since the CFI wrote on the report herself, Tricia believes it's in the girl's best interest to move with her to Tennessee, as it's has smaller community with better education options. And so she basically said, the most striking omission is the lack of any analysis about domestic violence, especially since this was specifically noted in her order. This reviewers consider this a very significant deficiency in the conclusions. It's a factor she's required to investigate. She said, first, the CFI forgot that she's supposed to put this in there. She did not analyze any of the allegations of father violating the protection order, which mom had turned into a police officer, and to the CFI. She did not include in her report the incident related to this, which was in the report. And actually, side note, Tisha Strawn specifically instructed Trisha Thompson not to get the police report or the lapel camera video. I don't need to see it, don't get it. And I was like, what the fuck? Go get it right now. Yeah, she specifically told her, do not give me that evidence. The CFI did not include information provided to her by counsel. In addition, she failed to acknowledge or cite the text father sent to the mother initiating violation outside of talking parents, which are a violation of the protection order. Mother sent these to the CFI on January 5th and January 7th. CFI failed to analyze mother's allegations of abuse. On January 16th, mother emailed her a detailed account of the different incidents of abuse, which appeared to show a pattern of coercive control. The CFI then became defensive about her stance of not asking father about this. She not only failed to investigate them, but she did not include all of the incidents of abuse in the report, which perhaps could have led her to see the pattern of coercive control. This reviewer read a 24-page document father sent the CFI, which appeared to be focused on attacking mother's character. In such document, page 2, he admitted, I did tell them, the children, that certain accusations were made against me that resulted in me being forced to leave the home against my will. He added right after this, he noticed Rebecca was anxious and could not go to sleep until 10 p.m. The CFI did not include this in her report. CFI stated she had obtained the mandated training. However, she failed to analyze this case to assess whether there is a pattern of coercive control. And it basically directed her to do that. She did not investigate domestic abuse allegations, including that he verbally belittled mother, witnessed by all the children, gaslit her and entrapped her through hidden cameras and recordings, had recorded Rebecca without her knowing. He had kept asking her questions about why she was reading the Bible. That father's daughter disclosed to the CFI that father was the stepdaughter said her dad was controlling, and other information shared by the mother in her documents. One of the most poignant and significant pieces of evidence this reviewer found in the CFI file was father's former wife's testimony. According to the CFI notes, recalled several concerning situations which highly resemble mother's allegations, including father's personality of being very controlling, abusive, insidious ways, financially abusive, trying to isolate them from others, engaging in alienation by telling people who have known her whole life that they don't really know her, isolating her, never knew how much money he had. A couple of times when Waylon didn't act the way he wanted to, father would hold him down and shave his head bald. Waylon would be crying for hours with the migraine headache. Father would not allow the other child to go to a young women's group because he didn't want to expose her to a different religion. Father recorded everything, could not stop collecting all this information, unmasked all of these things. He was recording everyone like he was trying to get everyone in trouble. The CFI appears to chastise mother for discouraging contact between the father and the children and for discouraging such contact through third parties. The CFI failed to apply that normally it's discouraged to interfere in that relationship, except if a parent is acting to protect a child from witnessing domestic abuse or child abuse, it can't be held against them. And that's what Miss Strawn did. So she goes on to say she didn't apply the correct standard
Hey,
for
Jill,
Yeah.
sorry, just really quick, 1 second. Um, Patricia, does Waylon have migraines?
I don't know that for a fact. He kept saying he'd have headaches, but his father would be like, yeah, suck it up. And when he was old enough to take his own Advil, he'd go and get Advil. But I
Yeah,
don't,
because like I have a former roommate that suffers pretty severely from migraines, where like dark lights and the whole
Mhm.
matter like that. That's a pretty big thing just to throw in there, sight unseen. That's why I was just wondering if there was any like medical diagnosis to your knowledge.
I don't know if he's been diagnosed, but I have migraines myself. And whenever I'd have one, Ricky would go out of his way to make noise and cause problems.
Oh God, of course. Okay, all right.
So, anyways, we had this turn into the judge. And so, things are pretty crazy. And we're, like I said, we're trying to figure out, okay, what kind of hearing are we going to have? It was March 28th, because on March 27th, as I'm frantically uploading documents and trying to adjust for this emergency hearing, we find out all of a sudden we had an agreement on taxes with these parties. On January 5th, Rich had reached out to me and said, hey, what if they file together so we can get them taken care of? And on March 27th, all of a sudden, oh, hey, Ricky's going to file his taxes separately. And don't worry, we've already talked to the tax preparer. And I was like, the hell he is. And that day, Trisha tried to get her tax documents from the tax preparer, who suddenly refused to return her phone calls. Started treating her pretty much the same way that John treated her when she called to say, hey, what's going on? And that night, we finally got documents after me basically threatening to sue the fuck out of the accountant agency. And that's when I discovered all of the money that Ricky had sold off that he hadn't disclosed, all of the stocks and bonds that he was trying to stick Tisha with the tax liability on by transferring it to her name under their now new separately filed taxes. And so on the night of the evening before our hearing, at about 10:30 at night, I had to file an emergency motion to continue the secondary portion of the divorce hearing because of lack of disclosures by Mr. Thompson and the fact that we were very, very concerned that he had improperly manipulated the tax professional to take more of Patricia Thompson's money away. And so it's midnight and I think that gets us to a good point where we can start out with what happened on March 28th.
Really quick. If he's trying to stick all the taxes with Patricia there, isn't that like a tax cheat? That's gonna be against the law somehow, right?
It is a gray area.
Well, I say so. This is the whole thing. They both signed tax documents. I did have to argue with their attorney, not dissimilar to how I had to argue with the school in this case, to say, you dummies are not following the law. And I really don't want to bring you into my divorce case, but guess what? Your boy's getting subpoenaed. And I slapped a subpoena on Dan Rogers. And then suddenly his lawyers, his malpractice lawyers from Denver were calling me, falling all over themselves to get me records after they were shitty to me for a couple of weeks. But basically, a lot of times tax preparers do prepare as married and married filing separately. And Ricky tried to get Patricia to agree on the record, March 28th in hearing, to just agree to file them separately. And I was like, not a chance, Your Honor. We have a deal. And Rich tried to say we didn't have a deal, despite the fact that I had countless emails and a signed document that they both went in together because we coordinated them turning their tax documents into the tax preparer, which we agreed to go with Ricky's choosing. We'll never do that again. But, we assumed that'd be okay. And we made coordinated schedules so they didn't violate the protection order. And Rich sat in court and told the judge I was a liar and that they had turned over everything to me and that I was full of shit and I was delaying the case unnecessarily. And I think at that point in time, we'll talk about what happened in the hearing, but the judge was so fed up with all of us and he's like, nope, hearing continued. So, and we'll talk about the hearing the next time we record, but I know you
Yeah.
probably have some questions and follow up. And so that got us to March 28th. We went from January 4th to March 28th.
That's not bad.
Well, March 27th. We'll talk about March 28th next time. Do you have any questions?
I'd kind of like to hear from Patricia a little bit if she has anything.
Well, yeah, it was just redonkulous, because you'll find out later on about how even to the very end of the hearing on March 28th, what happened, how they just still tried to stick to their falling apart story, and how you'll see what kind of hold he has. I still believe he still has on this woman. How she lost everything for him.
Are you talking about Tisha?
Yeah, Tisha.
Well, okay, so that was one of the things while we were going through that.
Actually, just a quick question. I actually kind of had it for both of you also. How would this have gone differently if we had gotten a different CFI? Like, let's say we got
It would
Ted
have
Wilson.
well, we so hold that thought because we did.
We did.
Oh, dang it. Okay, all right. No spoilers. I'll stop there.
Okay, so hold that thought because we did. So, no, I will say I sat there, not dissimilar to what I saw happening in the other case that you and I have talked about, where I have all these government professionals breaking the law, and I'm like, what is going on? This is I mean, Patricia and I talked to her about it. I mean, I kind of agonized about it because I'm like, what is she doing, dude? She's about to ruin her career. What is going on? Like, why on earth would she do this? She's so confident that she's gonna win, and either I've lost my mind and I'm not seeing this correctly, or this bitch is real dumb because she's about to literally go under oath and lie in front of my judge, and her report's real bad. And I tried to head it off. That's the thing that makes me mad about these guys. I approached them. How many times did we go to Rich and say, hey, Rich, this isn't gonna work. Can we please not do this? Can we please just do it the right way? This is gonna blow up in his face. Can we save the attorney's fees and just do it right? Every time he turned us down. Even with Trisha, I said, withdraw your supplemental report. I told her in emotion, you better withdraw your supplemental report or I'm gonna freaking get attorney's fees on you. I'm turning you in. You better knock it off. You don't have authority to file. And she did it anyway. So I got her motion kicked out, and the judge told her, do not file anything anymore. And then she knew, oh shit, I'm in trouble.
It didn't stop her though. Boy, she went.
Well, it did and it didn't. Because I will tell you this. Let's give them the spoiler of why we had the hearing. Because like I told you, the judge said I wasn't gonna set it for hearing, but now something happened that requires me to set it for hearing. So on the morning of the 28th, I'm pissed. I had a big fight with my parents the night before because I was staying at their house. They weren't there, but they were hassling me.
Oh,
I'm
God,
upset. I'm upset because I have to prepare for 2 different hearings. I find out about all this tax stuff. I'm on the phone trying to talk to the tax attorney. And we walk into court the morning of the 28th. So I'm already angry. And the very first thing that happened was before anything started, the judge said, I'm going to ask some questions before anybody else gets called, which kind of took the wind out of my sails because it was my motion and I was ready to go. I was fired up. And he called Tisha to the stand. And the first question he asked her was, besides state your name and, under oath, did you send text messages to court professionals about this case? And she kind of paused for a moment and she said yes. And then she came up with a lie. The reason this is significant is because the CFI is prohibited from having ex parte communication. And so I don't know the specifics of what was in that text message. I can only speculate. But I do know that there was an I Hate Jill campaign with a number of the government officials there. And Tisha, who was a former sheriff's deputy, who was part of the club, mistakenly assumed that she could text Magistrate Taryn, who she thought was the judge on the case, because Magistrate Taryn had initially entered the protection order, talking shit about me and trying to prejudice her against our case, thinking that Magistrate Taryn was going to have the hearing, not realizing that it was going to be Plu. And Magistrate Taryn, who I don't know that well yet, but who I seem to be impressed by, did absolutely the right thing and immediately contacted Judge Plu and said a CFI just contacted me and tried to give me prejudicial information about the Thompson case. I don't know for a fact that happened. I believe that's what happened. I don't even think I needed to have the rest of the hearing because the judge had that hearing for one reason and one reason only, which was, did you send a text under oath? Did you send a text to a court personnel? And she said yes. And I had the rest of the hearing because I wanted to prove collusion. And we'll talk about the rest of the hearing next time. But the judge had that hearing for a very specific reason. He wasn't going to give it to me otherwise. But when Tisha
Right.
knew she was at the end of her rope and knew that this was going to get real bad for her in a couple of days, tried to take matters into her own hands and handle it outside of a courtroom. Uh-oh, not going to get that post certification now, are you, bitch?
No.
No, but she got some other stuff before that case, before her report came out. So
She had 16, from what I know, she was a CFI on 16 cases when she did this. And I know of another case. I want to try to talk to that one if we can get it on, because I know of another case that she did something very wrong where she put a child with a known meth addict who had burned her baby's face with a cigarette. And the other attorney called me almost crying and was like, why would the judge go along with this? And it was because of Tisha Strong's report. So Tisha's been removed from the roster. I will say that. We've talked about this already, so it's not giving it away. And we'll tell what happened in the hearing, but I absolutely got Tisha founded for violations, and Tisha's been removed from the roster. She can never be a CFI.
I hope that him was worth all of that.
Now, speculative. We don't know that they.
We don't know that it was pleasurable either. Let's just say that much.
Right.
I don't know, but it does make me a little concerned that you talk about late night texting, because I've definitely late night texted clients, but I never thought about it. But now I'm like, ooh.
But we're
like,
so
keep it during business hours.
There were so many of them when she would not return my emergency calls and emails and texts after hours because she don't work after hours. But between the hours of 9 p.m. and midnight, they were having hours of conversation.
Bedtime legal discussions.
Well, to be fair, that does happen, but also that is the time and whatnot. So
yeah, and I think the bigger thing is, I mean, again, totally speculation, but when we can pinpoint them together on the evening of February 8th, the same day that Ricky charges Holiday Inn Express hotel room to his card, when his son Waylon is still living at home. The girls aren't there, but Waylon's still there. And he stays the night at a Holiday Inn in Cortez, a mile from his house.
Because remember, she almost didn't get to the report to us on time because all of a sudden she had computer issues and was up late trying to fix her computer.
Because her and Ricky were in a hotel room working on the report together.
Yep. Yep. Because that's his entire writing style.
That's when she started calling him Rick. And I was like, why are you calling him that?
And also, but now he adopted that whole I'm Rick.
I'm Rick. Yeah, he started buying cowboy hats during this. I forgot we forgot to mention
thing. Okay. This is what was concerning for a long time. It's kind of still is. All of a sudden the girls tell me he's learning Spanish. He's never wanted to do that before. He used to make fun of me when I would try to watch shows to practice mine. He's getting big giant cowboy hats, cowboy belt with giant cowboy buckles.
He's been watching YouTube videos on cowboy hats.
Yes.
Because they have a shared YouTube channel, shared YouTube account.
He bought a cattle dog. He bought.
Is he in Yellowstone?
That I don't know. That might be too much.
I couldn't see him being into that, though. I would think it'd be too evil.
Really?
Well, because he believes you shouldn't watch anything evil on TV.
Yeah, it's the whole double standard, like no rated R movie type
because
stuff.
he believes you shouldn't even look at a woman.
It sounds like he's maybe not comfortable with himself.
I think he's
We
part-
we agree with that. I think we've talked about that where I could see him going that direction, but he's got the Christianity that gets in the barrier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because then you get the
He's got
God in between your ears, and
It just there was some weird things that came up like that where he but it was weird because he at the first hearing it was sex issues, and then he showed up to another one of our hearings with a hearing aid on, claiming he couldn't hear anything.
God,
He had like a
this guy.
shift. It's like a guy who shows up in like a wheelchair. You know what I mean? Who doesn't need one? It was just weird.
it's just but I found out that apparently he has this huge online pornography thing that he got cured for and was then at the church for a while.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I say, wouldn't you be sharing that if you were going to share malicious gossip? Wouldn't that be the thing to share?
Yes.
His porn addiction? I don't know. And so there was another thing that we never got to the bottom of. But so Ricky logged Trisha out of everything except for the YouTube account. And she thought that he was trying to send her messages through YouTube because of the videos he would watch. Like, give him some examples.
He watched this one where, and this is the one I gave to Tisha Strawn, and she said, "Oh, it's nothing." It was where how you could abuse your wife to where she liked abusive sex.
She would watch videos on how to fool narcissists in court. Like, it was stuff that like she should really be watching, but he was watching it. And it brought up something that her and I have discussed at length. And that's why I'd really like to get a psychologist on this. Because every day I try to understand Ricky Thompson more and more, and every day I get further confused because I legitimately don't know if Ricky Thompson knows what he's doing. Like, I don't know if he understands the actions that he's taking. I am very clear spoken, just like this. And Ricky would be like fiddling with his little cord ear headphones. I can't understand what you're saying. Can you repeat the question? I can't understand you. Yeah. It was ridiculous.
Well, remember
It's so ridiculous.
at the first hearing with Magistrate Taryn, he gets up on the stand and Rich questioned him. Well, so what are you? He goes, I'm a disabled veteran and I can't hear and I can't see and I can hardly walk. And he goes on this spiel till finally she's like, she puts a stop to it because it had no relevance whatsoever. And he was,
yeah, I do remember that. He wouldn't, like, I was asking him questions about like their utility bills, and he's like, oh, I've been retired. And I'm like, yeah, cool. How much do you pay for electric?
he goes, oh, I don't handle the bills.
Yeah, no, honestly, see, that's what that one bit him in the ass big time, because the fact that he refused to give documentation to me, Magistrate Taryn did absolutely the right thing. She said, hey, you knew you had this hearing. You're the one who asked for it to be continued. So since you didn't turn it over, you're responsible for all utilities while the case is pending, and then, or all household expenses, excuse me. And then what was funny was in the middle of the case, property taxes came up, and Rich was like, well, she needs to pay for half the property taxes. And I said, nice try. Your client's been ordered to pay for all household expenses. Sorry.
And then he wouldn't,
He didn't pay him on time. He tried to pay him late. And then the judge ordered him to pay him anyway, like he was supposed to. But yeah, no, there were a couple times where he thought he was really pulling a fast one. And I'm like, all right, asshole, let's play.
like the car insurance. He wouldn't sign off on the titles. He wanted the judge to make a decision. So he ended up having to pay the car insurance.
Yeah, we offered to give him the truck, the separate property truck. We offered it to him in October. Said, hey, you can have it. She'll sign off it today. We'll bring the title to court. And he wouldn't do it because he wanted to try and get her to agree to his deal. So we said, okay, cool, let's take it to court.
But it's like the first day of the final hearing, he agreed, I'll sign the titles, bring them. I did. He said, no dice. I want the judge to decide.
Yep. And then the judge decided everything we asked for. So.
And then we wasted so much time having to pester him to get it done. And
well, see, that's kind of what
there's more to the story of Ricky Thompson. That's why I said we can't tell this. Like, you understand why we've got to just keep talking about it, because there's so much.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of why I asked and kind of why I wonder, because I'm like, because he hasn't worked at this point for years, right?
Yes, it worked since 2013.
Yes.
Yeah, 2013.
So it's like, are you just bored?
What their primary objective is they cannot be seen in any other light besides the light that they choose to present themselves in. And anything that is contrary to their belief is perceived as betrayal. Anybody who doesn't give them what they want is betraying them. And especially if they're exposing bad behavior, then you're really in deep shit because now you've done the unforgivable sin. I've been conditioning you our entire relationship. You better not do this to me. And if the only way that Patricia can protect herself is to do exactly what he's threatened her not to do, he is going to make it his mission to destroy her. He will win at all costs.
He said it so many times. I will destroy you. I will take your children. You will never see them again. I will make it to where you never can work again. I will destroy you and kill you. That's it.
And so thinking back, I know Patricia doesn't really, she knows a little bit about this, but think about what Sky said. Sky said, you better do
Right.
what I say or I'm going to make sure you never see these kids again. I'll say whatever I have to say. I'll do whatever I have to do to make sure. You know, I have spent
Right.
many a year analyzing the complex personality. And again, I don't have the training. It's just my perception. But I genuinely believe that their mental illness causes them to express or demonstrate love in a way that doesn't make sense to those of us that don't have, but they do perceive what they are doing as love. I don't think Ricky doesn't love his children in the way that he loves his children, but his way of loving his children is they are a possession that are supposed to be loyal to him. And as long as they are complying with his demands and aligning with him, then they are in his good favor. The second that they don't do that, they're in danger.
But see, and part of the problem is too, is he puts religion into that, saying where God has told him and appointed him in charge of them. Where they're
So actually, yeah, I like that. I say, and you too, not just them, you too, because you brought this up to me. You and I went to the coffee shop that one day. We were working on a document in the winter, and you brought up to me your assessment of biblical marriage in the context of what you experienced. And I don't know if you remember exactly what you said, but if you did, I'd like you to kind of just expound on that for a second, because it was something I had never heard, and I'm like, dude, I've been doing DV law for years. I've never heard it from the way you explained it. So do you remember what you said?
I'll try. Basically, in the Bible, it says women are to be submissive to men. That is put in place by God to basically solve arguments. It's not a 24/7 thing. We're technically supposed to be more partners and helpmates. But man has, of course, made it to their favor of saying you have to be submissive. It's more like when I get into a disagreement, there's got to be somebody to break that argument, and that's that role. That's where the women's supposed to say, okay, you know what, we're going to do it your way, but is not to abuse.
Sorry.
Wait. Okay. Wait. Hey, Patricia, did you ever play softball?
No.
Baseball? Okay.
Yeah.
Because in baseball and softball, there's a little rule that goes tie goes to the runner. So if the ball and the guy running to a base at the same time, well, tie goes to the runner. I think that maybe that's what the whole women submissive to men thing might have originally meant, several thousand years ago, and now it's been bastardized.
That's exactly.
There's a whole other element to it besides the religion part that's important. Because when you're dealing with a divorce matter involving children or a custody matter, one of the key factors the court's required to decide is decision making. So in a case like Patricia's, where because of the standard of our law that says the court cannot allocate joint decision making when there's evidence of domestic abuse, which there was here, the court was prohibited from ordering joint decision making, which automatically defaulted to Patricia as the victim, not the perpetrator. So the mere fact that she got that ruling in her favor, even though that's what the law requires, is so contrary to Ricky's beliefs that it will constantly be a source of contention, even though the judge made that order, not Patricia. Are you guys still in active litigation? And Sue said, yes, we are. I will tell you that Patricia Thompson has been charged with a criminal charge because of something that Ricky Thompson alleged to her. And she, up until very recently, had a warrant issued against her out of Montezuma County for something that Ricky got put on her after she left town. So Ricky's not going to stop fucking with her.
What, by phone calls? and stuff, he still controls me because he knows
Yes.
I do those phone calls. I have to stop what I'm doing and focus on him.
It's the problem with
We're in
this
limbo. You're in limbo. You're in limbo.
with this
Okay.
yeah, it's like this covert abuse where it's like, okay, so I'm going to keep going back to the picture of the trash can wall. That trash can wall, if you don't know the story, it's a picture of a wall that a trash can was against. But if you know the story and you know the history, you know that there's a lot more in behind that message. But if you don't talk to the person who's the victim and you just listen to the abuser and he goes, oh, she's ridiculous, then you're going to have a bunch of skeptical men going, well, she's just overreacting. So, yeah, it's technically a violation, but we're not going to do anything about it because it's not harassing. And that's where I get back to. They allow small cumulative violations of the law to occur. Happened numerous times in this case. Like I said, we'll get to it next time. I don't know how many times I asked for attorney's fees. We caught Ricky 10 over 20 over 30 times violating the law, and the judge let him get away with it every time until our permanent order was hearing. And then he still let him get away with it a little bit.
So, like, domestic abuse can refer to pretty much any relationship, right?
No. Okay, great question. So, domestic abuse in the civil context, which is any act, attempted act, threatened act of harassment, violence, intimidation, coercion, or stalking, can be to family members, household members, and intimate partners. But the crime of domestic violence has to be between intimate partners, husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, boyfriend and boyfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend.
I was gonna say because like in theory, if so, Waylon is now excluded from that. But if Ricky were to show up and
That's my concern.
I think he probably will show up at some point. I just hope I hope it's a long time from now, but I think he will.
See,
I do.
I mean, are there other states, whatever you might have that might be more politically
No, so
interfere
I know what
in
you're
her
trying to
favor?
ask. Here's the problem. It's what I said to you the last time we talked. Just because the parent is abusive to the other parent doesn't mean they're abusive to the children. And these laws are changing. And it's kind of that little side tangent that I told you I want to do a little episode on with the different states implementing coercive control language.
Right,
But
right.
this behavior that we're witnessing in the court system, I want to be clear. I think it's always been there in some measure, but it has exploded, especially
Right.
after COVID. It has exploded. I've used the terminology. One of my clients gave it to me, epidemic of narcissism. And that's exactly what it is. I have nothing else that I can describe it besides that. Every single case I have, I'm dealing with people where the courts clearly know what's happening, but the laws are not equipping the courts to really protect people. And I know I've said this ad nauseum, but I don't think we've ever laid it out on recording. So I'll try to keep it short and sweet because I know it's late. But essentially what I'm seeing happen over and over and over and over again is our courts know that they're dealing with one extremely hyperbolic, emotive, dramatic parent and one more quiet, submissive parent who's probably the victim in those two roles. I perceive that my courts know that the law does not adequately protect the victim. Okay, you got your civil protection order. That's all you get from us. Okay, cool. Sorry, the cops and the DA didn't enforce it, but yeah, that you got what we're going to give you. And then essentially, they're more worried about the reaction of the abuser than they are protecting the rights of the children and the victims. Because, like I've said to you before, in like Ricky's case, if the judge completely went along with me, even though I believe that's what should have happened, I think legally, if the judge had completely gone along with me, it would have opened the door for Ricky to make an appeal that the judge was biased and prejudiced against him, or he was abusing discretion, which means we might win, but how long are we going to be tied up in appellate court? And everything is stayed while we're going through that. And then if he doesn't win the appeal, then he has to go to the Supreme Court. And I mean, and it's like this could go on forever. And so our courts are like, get the fucking case closed. And that's what my motto has been in it's like, get it closed as soon as we possibly can.